Aloha nui loa, everyone, from Honolulu, Hawaii, where it is now 12:35 in the morning. And I wish to express my deepest appreciation to my dear friend of many years, Saeed Nadim Kazmi, Director of Global Civility, for this invitation to present this keynote address. Mona Adam, the founder and director of ShamanPR, contemporary development, and all of the participants in this conference. Since I am broadcasting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I wanted to draw all of you into Hawaii for a short while and share that I am wearing around my neck a fresh flower lei. A lei in Hawaii is a symbol of love, friendship, celebration, honor, or greeting. In essence, it is a symbol of aloha. Aloha is the Hawaiian word for welcome, goodbye, and most importantly, love. And it is meant to convey the heart of compassion, kindness, and goodwill from the person saying aloha to the person or persons hearing the word. When I began my presentation, I greeted you with the words aloha nui loa, which means with very much love. Thus, I am greeting you with great love, wearing a lei, the symbol of love and friendship for all of you. In Hawaii, it is traditional that all auspicious events begin with a sacred blessing evoked by a kumu or teacher, and so it is fitting that I begin this presentation with a blessing from a Hawaiian female teacher who reminds us of our sacred connection to life with the dawn of each new day that brings the light and shines upon the repositories of our knowledge that brings us enlightenment. In the dawning of this day, may we receive the blessing for this day's program from Hawaii, and may all that we share here today enlighten our hearts, minds, and spirits to be in remembrance and gratitude to the divine creator of all there is. Let us receive this blessing, please. I feel very privileged to share today on women's impact on civilizations, changes, and challenges. It is fitting to begin my presentation with a few lines contained in a couple of poems from Rumi that captures what for him is the essence of a woman. Woman is the radiance of God. She is not your beloved. She is the creator. You could say that she is not created. He also wrote, God is never seen immaterially, and the vision of him in a woman, the most perfect of all. From the time that humans began to tell stories of how human beings, the world, and cosmos came to be, women have had an elevated role as the divine feminine. I posit to you today that this is because, at the level of our deepest connection to the source of life itself, It is the woman from whose womb life is incubated and from whose womb life is born. She is therefore an indispensable aspect of creation itself. Throughout history, the divine feminine was not only powerful, but was worshipped as a goddess in many names and forms, in many cultures, countries, faiths, and all mythologies which existed over the eons until today. In Hawaii, for example, Pele is the ever-present and powerful goddess of fire and the volcanoes, a goddess involved in the earthly forces and in creation itself. Ancient Hawaiian chants call her she who shapes the sacred land. Today, Goddess Pele is working hard, creating a new island in the Hawaiian archipelago called Lo'ihi that is anticipated to rise above sea level between 10,000 to 100,000 years from now. In our sacred traditions, the divine feminine is often represented in a position of power. For example, in the Hindu tradition, the goddess Saraswati is a disseminator of knowledge, music, art, speech, wisdom, and learning. In ancient Egypt, Isis was associated with birth and death and the one responsible for healing and protecting kings. The first emperor of Japan, Jimmu Tenno, was born from the sun goddess Amaterasu, and the emperor was therefore considered to be of divine status. Up until Japan's defeat in World War II, the emperor was accorded this divine status, and no commoner could gaze upon him. In Buddhism, the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, or Kuan Yin as she is called in Chinese, Kannon Sama in Japanese, and Quan Da'am in Vietnamese, is considered to be the goddess of mercy and compassion, the one who hears the cries of the world and brings all sentient beings who call upon her safety, protection, and relief from suffering and danger. David Wenrow wrote an essay called How Men Stole Civilization. He said, when people use the term early civilization, they are mostly referring to Pharaonic Egypt, Inca Peru, Aztec Mexico, Han China, Imperial Rome, ancient Greece, or other ancient societies of a certain scale and monumentality. All of these were deeply stratified societies held together mostly by authoritarian government, violence, and the radical subordination of women. Sacrifice is a shadow lurking behind this concept of civilization, the sacrifice of freedoms, of life itself, for the sake of something always out of reach. Wenrow writes, there is something wrong here. The word civilization stems from a very different source and ideal. In ancient times, civilis meant those qualities of political freedom and mutual aid that permit societies to organize themselves through voluntary coalition. A moment's reflection shows that women, their work, their concerns, and innovations are at the core of this more accurate understanding of civilization. What until now has passed for civilization might in fact be nothing more than a gendered appropriation by men, etching their claims in stone of some earlier system of knowledge that had women at its center. From such a starting point, we can see the true history of living civilization. It reaches far beyond the earliest monarchies or empires, resisting even the most brutal incursions of the modern state. For too long, we have failed to recognize the most important elements of a truly civilized society: political wisdom, cooperation, kindness, and women. Despite the elevation of women to the realms of the divine in our creation stories, and the integral part of women in the human journey of family, community, and society, we see the dominance of patriarchal structures, policies, and practices, which has led to the marginalization and oppression of women. For example, in the United States, women's right to vote was a hard-won fight that finally succeeded only in 1920. Women in the US were finally able to own land in their own names only in 1900. And women were finally able to open bank accounts and credit cards in their own names only in 1974. It wasn't until 1978 that they were guaranteed the right to not get fired from their jobs if they got pregnant. And still, the United States is only one of 7 countries that has not ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. The political will of the leadership in the US and other countries must support the rights of women in all aspects of life. What conferred these positive changes in the lives of women? Laws that were passed that recognized the rights of women to give them agency over their own lives in unprecedented ways. Laws that came about because of the tireless efforts of women and supportive men who organized, marched, and advocated for these rights. Today, women's enrollment in law schools are up 55.75%. And we must keep supporting the representation of women in becoming educated in their rights and creating the legal instruments that provide and protect their rights. The United Nations, that was created out of 2 horrific world wars, has created international legal instruments such as Security Council Resolution 1325, which is a landmark resolution on women, peace, and security that acknowledges the impact of armed conflict on women and girls, and the critical role of women in preventing and resolving conflict and promoting peace and security. Resolution 1325 and its 9 reaffirming resolutions address how states must ensure that women at all levels of decision-making are full, equal, and meaningful participants in the peace process. The resolutions also call for measures to protect women and girls from abuse and sexual violence in situations of armed conflict. However, gender equality continues to be challenged by persistent and unhealthy patriarchal systems and inequitable power dynamics at all levels of society. Breaking down patriarchal traditions requires persistence, perseverance, and ongoing education to reinforce the truth of equality and women's rights. If the goal is lasting peace that embraces the basic human values of safety, security, abundance, health, and love, it is critically important that women's voices are heard in the rooms where the road to peace is determined. Today, we are faced with over 35 wars going on in the world as I speak, with real danger that the violence and conflicts will spread. The need to accelerate women's participation in peace processes is more important than ever. Research has shown that women's participation in conflict prevention and resolution can improve outcomes before, during, and after conflict. For example, women's participation increases the probability of a peace agreement lasting at least 2 years by 20%, and a peace agreement lasting 15 years by 35%. We must remember the important role which women have in our lives and recall the divine feminine in all of her many manifestations. In all aspects of life, as we see wars raging around the world, let us remember our actions must be guided by a moral, ethical compass that moves us to work for peace in the world. We must honor our laws, including the Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols, which is a body of public international law, also known as the humanitarian law of armed conflicts, whose purpose is to provide minimum protection, standards of humane treatment, and fundamental guarantees of respect to individuals who become victims of armed conflict. Beyond all, the infinite eternal mystery of Allah's uncreated essence is a divine feminine that is the ultimate spiritual reality, calling to the souls who love Allah to come home and find perfect peace. Lawrence Gallian wrote, "The divine feminine in Islam manifests metaphysically and in the inner expression of the religion. The divine feminine is not so much a secret within Islam as she is the compassionate heart of Islam that enables us to know divinity. Her centrality demonstrates her necessary and life-giving role in Islam. May our remembrance of the divine feminine in her many manifestations, which transcends all ethnicities, religious identifications, politics, and countries, help to bring us to peace, for we are all children of the one great God. Let us take this moment now to reflect upon this as we view this video and pray for the peace and comfort for all who are suffering in these wars. Let us continue to work for the respect and equality of women who represent 50% of the world's population, that we may maximize our opportunities for peace. Let us pray for a swift end to all wars, and may the heart of the mother's love prevail over all. Rumi said, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. May all of you be blessed in all ways, always. And aloha nui loa from Hawaii. Thank you for this privilege to share with you today. Aloha.